Well, here's the first seat of the pants review that I'm going to do. It's on a log splitter from Klicka. It's a company that's selling online in Australia. Got it loaded up with a log ready to split, and I thought, what the heck, let's do a quick review on it. Obviously it's made in China, and unfortunately suffers from a few made in China issues. However, before I go into those things, it's managed to split all of that down to about here without missing too many beats. The rest of the wood, obviously I'm not going to be splitting those big rounds sitting there. I'll be chopped in half by my chainsaw before I put them through the splitter. However, it's performed very well. The engine uses no oil. The engine starts very easily. Where they've let themselves down a little is on some of their quality control. The very first few months, or a couple of weeks, probably a couple of weeks actually, that I used this splitter, I ended up bending the main ram, would you believe. Now if you can look at that now, you can see that head on that splitter is kicked slightly back even now from some of the pressure this thing's been put under. Now this is where part of the quality comes in. Klicka without hesitation sent me a new ram, and I fitted it, and it's been going fine ever since. However, you cannot just put pressure on that bottom section. In other words, put a piece of wood in there that's out of square, or you may, as I said, I don't know for sure, maybe it was a bad batch that did the first one, but I'm not risking it. You will for sure bend that ram, which I found quite stunning. I might just chuck a quick picture up afterwards showing the old ram. Part of the reason that's happened, and I'll try and move out of the shadows so you can, it's a bit of a bloody waste of time, isn't it? Trying to move out of the shadows. No, I can't do it just where the sun is. But the distance either side from the centre here is about 5 mil out. It doesn't seem like much, but what effectively happens then is these sliding plates either side, which is supposed to help guide the unit, end up not actually engaging. And the one on this side, I've actually had to slot those bolt holes and move the thing in a little bit further. So it's just, I've had it before with other bits out of China. It's just quality control. You know, you need to make sure. In fact, you know what, you can almost see it from this angle. You can almost see the difference where the measurements, it's only 5 or so mil, but it's enough. When you're talking about 15 tonne, that could have been enough to cause that ram to bend. The engine itself starts like a dream. Absolutely perfect little engine. Of course, as I'm doing this with my cell phone, so it's power on, choke on even though the engine's hot, simple pull, choke off. Now how easy was that? That started really easily. I'm seeing this particular type of engine on a lot of different appliances coming out of China now, so whoever the manufacturer is doing a pretty good job actually. Very happy with the engine. Oil leaks. Yeah, there's a small oil leak which you can see down on the side there. However, I suspect it is, after checking it today, that I've actually overfilled the crankcase slightly, so it's coming out the breather. So the hydraulics, there's no leaking from the hydraulics whatsoever. As for splitting power, well, I'll just throw this piece in and you'll be able to see. see what I'm talking about there. That rattling, of course, is this head which is moving on its base. But that just split that, no problem at all. Straight onto the pile. So, oil tank, sorry, hydraulic oil tank down underneath here. So I'm pretty happy with it actually. When it turned up, it had no handle. I think it must have came off the transit. So I've been to Bunnings and I've picked up a, would you believe, a door stop and fitted it as a handle. But I have no doubt in my mind, I've been splitting, where are we? Some of these ones over here are a good example. I've been throwing pieces through that size with the four-way splitting wedge on, and it just eats it. When the wood's a bit wet, it does struggle a little bit, but I think anyone would. It's also, you got to be sensible too, you know. You notice that I've put this piece on the trolley jack at the moment, and I'm going to dump that over the side because there's no way this thing, well in fact I don't think there'll be too many splitters that would actually handle that. So that's going to get hit with a chainsaw and broken up into more manageable size. I actually reckon it would probably split those if I was to lift them up on there, but I'm not going to, that's just dumb. Because once I finish this tree too, I've got another one that I chopped down over in the distance there, which will probably be done next year. I won't get time to do it this year. But this wood, by the way, is red gum, so it's reasonably hard wood. But the unit goes really, really well. I'm quite pleased with it. You can run it with the four-way wedge on the front, or if it's a slightly gnarly bit of wood, you can actually take that four-way wedge off and just use it with a splitter you can see in the middle. But I actually prefer to use it with that four-way wedge. But as I said, she starts very, very easily. You know, barely pulling on that. And look at that. Straight up and running. So she's a pretty good unit. Obviously don't muck around with the pressure settings on there. You don't need to if it's too high. I think part of the reason too that the first ram might have bent was the fact that I was a little bit annoyed and I had a piece of wood in there that just wouldn't play the game, and I just smashed the pressure on it just to see if I could get it to split, which in hindsight, you know, if you had a $3,000 or $4,000 log split a year, it would probably handle it. This thing being a, you know, as I said, I would have to look at the website. It might even be less than $1,000. It might have even, no, actually I think it was around 700 maybe. Have a look on Klicka's website. I'll put a link at the bottom of this video. But it's certainly done very well, as you can see with what I've split there. Incidentally, this little cradle that you can see sitting here is what I actually made to lift those big rounds up onto the splitter. I've been grunting most of them up, but some of the heavier stuff I thought, no, I'll end up with a crook back or something. So you basically stick it on the, pull those two pins at this end, drop your piece of wood onto the top, come to this end, put your foot on it, lift the piece of wood up, and stick those two pins. You can see one of the pins there. Stick that pin in, and then all you got to do is roll it onto the splitter, and away she goes. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with it. It's not too noisy. It's reasonably quiet, being a 4-stroke engine. The welding on it. The welding is pretty reasonable when you look at it. I mean, it depends what you're wanting. If you want absolute perfect welding, you're not going to get that, but that's certainly as good as I can do, if not most people I've seen with a stick welder. The as I said, I'm probably going to modify. Actually, I'm probably going to get Klicka to replace. Now that that piece of wood's gone, you can probably, it's probably giving you a bit of a better example. But that's done an awful lot of work. But probably these pieces here that you can see, I'm actually going to Dremel those out a little bit more, and then I'll probably fill the holes in at the back. In other words, move the holes in a bit closer so this thing sits a lot more secure. To me personally, I think it's almost a bit of a design fault. Now I don't know what the solution would be, but it's almost a bit of a design fault to have this section of leverage between the center of the ram to the bottom here. So if you've got a piece of wood that's sitting in there like that, that's putting a significant amount of force onto this ram. You've got to remember, this ram too also has a hole drilled through the center of it there, so that is going to weaken that ram. I was actually a little bit stunned that the damn thing bent. Actually, I really didn't expect it to do it, but it did. So it's been replaced. As I said, Klicka were very, very good with it. There was no hesitation. I mean, I could have sent the thing, packaged it up and got it sent back and all the rest of the nonsense that goes with that. But to me, that's just being a bit of an idiot. It works alright. Personally, I think it was better for them just to send me a replacement ram. It took me probably about half an hour to fit it, and away she goes again. So, as I said, reasonably happy with it. Well, in fact, very happy with it. So, it's well worth buying. Let's actually just take a little trip over here, and I'll show you the existing ram that came off it. Weather station. Horrible cake, get rid of that. Right, the existing ram, now you'll probably laugh a bit with this, I certainly can see the funny side of it. You can see the bend in that. It's reasonably significant, and I think really when you look at that, it's probably bent around that hole through there actually, so it's probably a bit of a design fault. In some ways it'd be almost better having a floating head, but that's really been the only major fault with it. As I said, everything else is very good.